Hey, welcome back to the Think Bigger Real Estate Show. I'm your host, Justin Stoddart. Fired up to be back with you after a big business planning workshop yesterday. And we're following up with some amazing value today that is going to help you maximize the amount of money that you're putting out in sponsorships. I know as real estate agents, you're oftentimes getting hit up like, hey, put your money here, put your money here. And how do you maximize that? How do you get the best use of that money? I have with me an expert, a dear friend, and an expert on this topic. He's been doing it for a long, long time. We're going to get into that. Before I do that, I want to remind you the mission of this show, which is very similar to mine, which is to help you think bigger. I know that as you begin to think bigger, your possibilities start to expand. You start to take different actions. You start to see things that have always been there. You just didn't see them before. And I know that one of the best ways to help you think bigger is to put you around other big thinkers, people that are doing great things that will inspire you to, again, expand your own possibilities. So with that being said, I'm ecstatic today to have with me one of my longest term friends, somebody who was actually a college roommate. Since that time, he's done some very impressive things, built an amazing family. In addition to that, he has a really impressive background all about promotions. And he's been on the Jason, let me welcome you to the show. First and foremost, thanks for coming on the Think Bigger Real Estate Show.
Hey, I've got crazy stories about you being roommates. And we'll keep it clean here.
Sounds like a little bit of blackmail, folks. Listen up. Yeah, we'll keep it clean. Keep in mind we went to BYU, right? So the stories aren't that crazy, but they're pretty funny nonetheless. They'd probably at least cause me to blush. Yeah. But Jason, tell us a little bit about your background, what you're doing now, and kind of what led to that, so we can kind of get a picture of kind of where you're speaking from when it comes to helping real estate agents be really good at maximizing their money when it comes to sponsorships.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, I went to Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah, and had the pleasure of being your roommate. And
your resume? Do you put that?
Put that down? On there. It's right at the top. But no, went to BYU and got my degree in advertising communications there. And after that, well, during my time at BYU, I was interning with the Utah Jazz and helping with some game operation, promotional type of experience there and work. And from there, built some relationships and had a little quick stint in Denver where I was working for the Denver newspaper agency for a little bit. But always my love was if I could combine sports and advertising, it was that's what I wanted to do. Right. And so kept in touch with the Jazz, and there's a full-time position that came open after a year being in Denver, came back and sold corporate sponsorships for Mountain America, for the Utah Jazz. And then after a few years there, I went down to back to BYU in the athletic department. They had a third-party rights holder that was managing their sponsorships for them for the athletic department, and it called IMG College, and worked for them for about 7 years or so, and then went from the sponsorship sales side in selling sponsorships and helping brands activate their sponsorships in these different venues, and came on the brand side and the corporate side with Mountain America, as I mentioned before. And so I've been doing that for about 6 years now, where I now go to the BYUs or the Utah Jazz or the Real Salt Lakes or the Boise States and work with them on maximizing the value and the exposure for Mountain America Credit Union, which is a regional credit union based in Utah.
Awesome stuff. So again, you've worked with some of the biggest brands in the Intermountain West. I should say some of the biggest teams, those that have loyal followings, right?
Yep.
I know IMG, for those that aren't familiar with that group, they run advertising and promotions. They're an outsourced kind of arm to help sell promotions and advertising for hundreds of universities, including the University of Oregon and countless others, right? They really just have a great system. And your job there, Jason, as you stated, but just to kind of reiterate how this is going to tie into today's conversation, is that you would go out and meet with businesses and say, how much money do you have to advertise? Let's maximize that, right? Let's get the most amount of exposure, the most amount of reach, the most amount of results for this amount of money that you said you have to advertise. Is that true?
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Cool. So now you find yourself on the other side of the table. You are part of a regional credit union that is looking to maximize its money, whether you're putting it at Boise State, whether you're putting it at Utah, at BYU, at the Utah Jazz, these other places where there are sports marketing happening. You're trying to say, okay, where can we get the best bang for our buck with all of these different audiences, right?
Yeah, and it's tricky because there's a lot of noise that can happen in a lot of these venues. You've been to, Portland Trailblazer games or Oregon games or Oregon State games, there in Portland, and there's a lot of noise that can take place there. So you've got to be really strategic on how you separate yourself.
Yeah. And I think, for the real estate agents that are watching this, again, I know I've got an audience that extends beyond residential real estate agents. Let me bring us back here. So for them, it's probably more like their local high school, right? Their high school is coming to them and they're saying, hey, we're selling advertising at games. You can put up a banner in the outfield. You can put a banner up in the gym. You can put a banner out along the fence at the football games. You can put advertising inside of the, roster, right? There's all these different places where you can put money. A lot of us see posters around town that have a picture of like the baseball team, and there's different sponsors around the edges, right? Lots of demands on people's money. Again, going back to the business planning workshop that I taught yesterday, according to the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, which is a great textbook on how to build a really successful business. Again, not just be a successful salesperson, but to actually build a sales business. They talk about having 10% of your marketing, 10% of your gross commission go back towards marketing. And you might think like, that's a lot of money. Like let's say it's $300,000 gross commission, that's $30,000 a year. And again, me being a guy that's very referral based, I think a lot of people spend a lot of money in areas where they maybe shouldn't, where they could take that money and actually pour it back in to the biggest advocates of their business, actually getting a chance to go have meals with them, maybe intimate client events. I think if you're looking at, okay, if I'm going to really dedicate 10% of my gross commission this year, I'm going to, first and foremost, I'm going to put on the list of like, I'm going to take care of the people that are taking care of my business. But then you get to a point where it's like, okay, I can't, like, it doesn't make any sense to pour more money into those people. I'm not going to get any more results and they don't need it, right? We're good. So now it really becomes more of a marketing game, right? You've essentially taken care of your sales force, right? Which are your key advocates. But now it's how do you expand that? And I shared this with you earlier, Jason, and a lot of my audience has heard me say this, is that in order for people to consider you to help them buy or sell real estate, you have to own a piece of real estate in their brain, also known as mind share. You have to show up. There's 0% chance that they will use you if they have forgotten you. Like it's virtually impossible. They will never use you if you're actually not in their brain and they can't remember you, right? They will not. I share a story when Tressa and I, my wife, we were selling our first home in Utah. Actually, I was very good friends with the agent who I probably should have used, but I simply forgot about him. Signed up with another agent, didn't do the greatest of jobs, but it was only because he was in my brain that I used him. And I would have preferred to use my friend Craig, who ended up, it wasn't great for the relationship, the fact that I didn't use him, and I should have. Shame on me for forgetting that, for forgetting him. Shame on him for not owning a piece of real estate in my brain, right? I forgot at the time of needing a real estate agent, I forgot him. And I think that's what most real estate agents are trying to avoid, is the fact that they've got friends and family, peers, past clients that would naturally use you if they didn't forget about you, right? And this ongoing quest of how do I actually expand my reach, get more brand awareness, so that when I get an opportunity, people are like, oh, I've seen you, I've heard you, you're familiar, you must have been doing this, you're experienced, because your name is not unfamiliar to me. So with that amount of money, right after I think you've really poured money into taking care of your sphere. Mm-hmm. Now it comes to this reach of marketing, right? Which is you can put money out that money's now working for you. The first step is we have people that are taking care of looking out for you. Now with Jason's expertise, we're going to go into what are the best practices to actually get that money, those dollars working for you and bringing back clients for you. So Jason, I'm going to turn it over to you here a little bit. You, again, worked on the side of you'd helped real estate teams, individual real estate agents, as well as insurance teams that came to you to said, we have this amount of money that we want to spend. How can we best use it? Share with us both the good and the bad of what you've seen, of what people have have done that was maybe not a good use of money, or that was a good use of money?
No, and those are all amazing points. And I think the key is when you talk about real estate of mind, you have to make sure that what is the message in that mind too. What kind of real estate is it? Is it really good real estate, or is it bad real estate? So you have to make sure that your message is right. You could be super annoying in your advertising, right? And that could be for better or for worse, right? I mean, they might always remember you because of something that you've done that maybe wasn't could have a negative impact on their mind. But you want to look at it from a positive standpoint. And so I'm big on making sure that you're giving back to the community and helping the people in which you serve. And so with real estate agents specifically, I feel like there is a big focus on the face of a real estate agent. I mean, everyone's smiling right now as I said. It's like, oh, I got to have my face on there, right? So people know who I am. Sometimes that can leave a negative impact, and I'll show a case in point. So I had a real estate company, and I'll leave them nameless, on there. But there was a regional real estate agency that. Well, actually, this was an insurance agency. Actually, that was, along the same lines. They wanted to make sure the faces were out there. Well, at football games, this agency wanted to sponsor a kind of a repetitive type of promotion where every time the football team converted on third down and got a first down, each agent, and there were probably 40 agents in this district that was sponsoring this team. They wanted to put their face and have it rotate through every time there was a first down off of a third down, and so their faces were going up, like crazy, and it was hard to manage that, from internally with that. But it became to have a negative impact where we were actually starting to receive calls on the negativity of that impact. Now I'm gonna take a different approach to that. I recommended to them that they do something different, but that's what they wanted to do. They were all equally paying for this sponsorship, so they wanted to make sure that their faces were seen on this big video board. But take a little bit of a twist on that. So with Mountain America, we have a similar type of promotion where at the Utah Jazz, we every time the Utah Jazz make a three-pointer, there'll be branding that goes up, but it's all branding, and it's Mountain America branding. But what we do is we take a little bit more of a different approach than hey, this is who you call, and this is the email address, or this is the phone number, or it's more for every three-pointer that the Utah Jazz make during the season, we donate $50 to the Huntsman Cancer Institute.
Wow.
And so what happens, that adds up at the end of the Jazz season. Now I get with real estate agents, this probably wouldn't be totally doable, and I'll take it down a scale to like high schools. But at the end of the season, we're looking at a $50,000 check, with how many three-pointers the NBA is jacking up right now. But that.
So time out, Nathan, real quick. I want to make an association right here. Is that you're associating your brand
yes
with something that people are already celebrating, right? It's fact like a three-pointer.
Yeah.
Right. Like Mitch hits a three and everyone's like, yes. And then it's like they start to associate these feelings of like excitement with Mountain America Credit Union. Brilliant, right?
And it becomes, instead of having our logo flashed up all the time, it is flashed up, it's there, but we're now top of mind, and it's associated with something positive now, not only within the game, but also that we're giving back to the community that we serve. And so it becomes this, and we did a survey throughout the entire state of Utah on what was the number one thing that associated us, and it was the three-pointers and giving back to the community. And it's tied through our radio, through our TV, through our in-game experience, to social media, you name it, it's all tied through it. So anytime a Jazz fan is consuming that information and there's a three-pointer, it's going to be associated there, and it's going to be associated to giving back. So let's associate that to like a high school, right? So instead of throwing a banner up at a baseball with your face and a phone number and things like that, what about just your logo and maybe who you are, like as far as your name, but try and find a way, and I'm not going to tell you what to do, but like try and find a way that's giving back to the community. How are you recognizing 5 high school students from that high school on being kind to other kids in school that are excelling and getting good grades? And how are you recognizing people in the community that are doing good? And as people start to associate that when they come to a football game and they see you on the field recognizing 5 kids for how amazing they've done in their grades or treating people with kindness or whatever it may be, like that's going to have a positive real estate in the mind, right, of what goes on there. And so I share with you kind of a big scale with the Jazz, but you can do the same thing on a lower scale and really show that you're serving, because people want to do business with those that they trust and they feel that you're giving back to the community in your advertising and sponsorship efforts. Like that is going to go a long way.
I would imagine that as these promotional opportunities go out to a real estate agent or they hear about them, that the other side would be totally cool with somebody being creative to say, hey, look, I'd love to sponsor. Here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to give back to the community. I'd love to highlight stuff that's good. I can't, other than just the logistical challenge of managing that, I can't see of any downside of why an organization, why a school, why a team would not want to have somebody sponsor and give back or highlight stuff. Maybe it's not even more monetary compensation. Maybe like you said, it's just, we're going to highlight people that are doing good, like rewarding good behavior. I want to point back to your point about this insurance company that had 40 agents that were bringing a new agent up every time there was a first down.
Yeah.
We are already so inundated in our society with information streams, right? You think about it. It used to be just a phone call, right? It was the only thing that would really, and maybe like letters in the mail were the things that took our attention, and maybe TV. Now you add in the fact that we've got text messaging, and now we've got Facebook, we've got Facebook Messenger, we've got Instagram, we've got Instagram Messenger, we've got LinkedIn, we've got LinkedIn Messenger.
A lot of noise.
Right? We've got Twitter feeds. We've got it's insane how many inputs of information we have coming at us. And I think what ends up happening is that brands get diluted really quickly. And the only ones that stand out are the ones that spend enormous amounts of effort and or money, or they get really creative, right? And I think that's what I would encourage this audience to go, is that you don't have the budget to spend over 10% of your gross commission on marketing. You shouldn't. It doesn't pencil. And even getting to that number might cause you to feel uncomfortable, right? $30,000 if your GCI is $300,000, $30,000 is a lot of money. Now, the thing that I would encourage you to do is be creative. Like some of these things that you're sharing here, Jason. Let's talk about somebody approaches you to say, should I hang, or would you be willing to sponsor a banner in the outfield at a baseball game? I've got thoughts on that. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Like, should you, shouldn't you? What are your thoughts?
It really depends on what your strategy is, right? So it's like, you really have to look at that. That's the whole point, is you have to have a marketing strategy. You can't just start shotgunning things everywhere. You can't just go, just because a kid walked up and said, hey, will you give me $300 for this outfield wall banner, that you do it. I mean, it may be strategic. That might be a big client of yours, right? That kid, he might be the ticket to a $2 million home, right? So you're like, actually, that's $300 very well spent in that case, right? To help. So, but you have to be strategic about it and go, where are my potential clients? Where are my potential customers? Where are they? And if you don't know that, you really got to sit down and look at it. And there's people who can help you with that too, right? But I think you have to really have a marketing strategy before you start throwing money places, or else it won't do you any good at that point.
It's a quick way to go, to go broke and get really frustrated really quickly and give yourself a pink slip.
Yep.
I tell people, like, and it's exactly to your point, Jason. I was smiling when you said that, because I totally agree. Is like, where are my people at? Where's the highest likelihood that where I'm going to get business? And if it's like from the baseball team, because I have a son on the baseball team, and I'm going to be sitting in the stands at baseball games all year long, and all the parents who are the most likely to refer me are staring at my face in the outfield, then that's a really good use of money. Mm-hmm. But if, for example, your kid doesn't play sports and you're never going to go to a baseball game and you're just some random face out in the audience, the chances of that creating any sort of return is slim to none, right? So I think I love that question that you asked. Like, who are our people? Where's our business going to come from? And like, what's the message that we put in front? Like, what's the message that they care about? Which I hear you saying is you've kind of been the architect behind this Mountain America 3-point deal, right? Is like, who are our people? What do they care about? They care about the Jazz winning and making 3-pointers. They care about, the Huntsman Cancer Institute and all the good that they're doing. Everyone's life's been touched by cancer. And so it's this like you've really nailed it there, right?
Let me add to that too, is we're not just doing that at the Jazz. Like at BYU games, when BYU's getting first downs, we're doing the same thing, but we're donating to the American Red Cross, right? Or 3-point at the BYU, or up at Boise State in Idaho. When they get first downs or 3-pointers, we're donating $50 to the Bronco Life Foundation or the St. Luke's Children's Hospital, right? So it's what matters to some of these different areas, and that's always not. It's not always one thing, in one region of the area, right? We look at what is important in some of these other areas, but the case in point, there's this consistency now, right? So when people associate themselves with Mountain America, it's giving back to the community. We're people helping other people. We're helping members achieve their financial dreams. We want to be that real estate in the mind when they're thinking, who can I trust to help us with an auto loan, or if we want a home equity line of credit, or if we want to do our mortgage, or if we want to look at investment portfolios, or if we just want to get our kids' youth accounts or checking accounts or savings accounts, right? We want them to go. We can trust Mountain America. They give back. And I want to associate and work with those that care about the community that I live in.
And again, back to not being diluted. I think it gets really important. In fact, we did a panel. I was part of a 10X Growth Summit here in Portland, and I had one of my favorite people and agents, Heather Robbins, who does a really good job. And her comment was, you first need to find out, identify, who are you? How do you want to show up? Like, why are you doing this business? What impact do you want to have? Not just, I want to create some income for me and my family. Like, that's not enough. You got to get more clear on how do you want to impact your community? And once you have that, then you can start to say, okay, how do I want to impact my community? Well, I'm really passionate about animals, right? Rescue animals. I'm really passionate about the environment. I'm really passionate about children or solutions for cancer. Like, whatever it is that's already like in your heart, that's already like, yeah, that's important to me.
Yep.
That's really important to me.
Mm-hmm.
Once you identify what that is, now you can start to build. What I hear you saying, Jason, is okay, if that's who I am, who else is my tribe? Who else cares about that?
And it doesn't mean that you have to give money either to somebody, right? For like donation to a charity or a cause, mm-hmm. right? I mean, it could be human capital. It could be you and your agency going and serving in the community somewhere. Mm-hmm. There's so many different ways that you can do it, because I can just hear people go, well, Jason, we don't have that kind of money to just throw $50 for that. Well, you don't have to do that. Like, the point is to be creative in your community that you serve, and decide how you can make an impact. And by doing that and associating your name and your agency name with the community, and that does include having your logo on things, that does include advertising and some of those things, but it also means that you have to be a little bit creative in how you're showing that you care as well.
Yeah. It's great stuff, man. Quick action steps for anybody that's listening today. Let's kind of walk through this. First of all, again, kind of we've identified what do you care about, right? Like, what really is at your heart that you really want to have your brand associated with? Once you've identified that, that's step number one. Step number two is, who else cares about that? Who's my audience, right? Mm-hmm. Step three is, where do these people hang out? where is my tribe at? And then next step after that would be, how do I craft a message that communicates what we care about and how I'm contributing and a part of that? Would you say that's a fair tactical list for everybody?
Yeah, and I think you have to really know your audience. You got to know your demographic, right? You got to know exactly who you're targeting, and you got to know who you want to be as well too, right? Like, what is your brand? What is your brand? What do you want that to be? And then from there, outline a marketing plan that is creative, that's not just reactive, but actually strategic. And then craft that plan that, and this is key, that separates you from the competition, right? You have to be separated. So that's what we've talked about, a lot of creative stuff that you can't just go buy on the radio waves or the TV, right? We've talked about really creative things. And so that's actually the really fun part of marketing, is sitting in a room with your team and going, hey, how do we be a little bit more strategic in our marketing efforts? And how can we, instead of just doing the traditional advertising, which is super noisy right now, how can we carve that out? And I think that probably would be a great step, is to, if you have a team, or even if it's just you and bouncing it off friends or another professional in the marketing industry, sitting down and saying, hey, how can we think a little bit bigger, right?
Yeah. A great question here from Stephanie Peck, and great friend of mine, great agent here in the Portland area. She asked this question: what's a good script to respectfully decline when I'm asked to sponsor but choose not to? It's a good question, Stephanie.
Yeah, and a lot of times with that, when we need to respectfully decline things, usually it's going to be something along the lines of, hey, we actually have a marketing strategy, and we have certain dollars allocated to this strategy. Though this is an amazing opportunity, we're not able to do that right now. I'm not saying no forever, but for right now in our strategy, we're going this direction. But thank you be grateful that they're giving you that opportunity, but just let them know that your strategy and your marketing strategy is in a different direction. And it doesn't mean that what you're bringing is not worth anything, but it's not the direction that you're going right now.
Good stuff. Stephanie, let us know if you have a follow-up question to that. I think that was great, Jason. And I think part of what I hear you teaching us, Jason, as well, is that if you're really intentional, then these opportunities, like, you're going to be able to, rather than saying, like, girls come to you and say, hey, would you be on our poster for our volleyball team? And you blend in, you're one of 14 different companies around the edge, or you're one of 13 companies on the back of a t-shirt that nobody is ever going to recognize. It's not going to move the needle. Ask yourself, again, like, how do I want to be seen in the community? Like, what are the causes I care about? What are the causes my customers care about? Those should be very similar. And then how can I creatively go and create some marketing campaigns? Again, for those that work in the Portland market that are real estate agents, I would love to work with you on that. Jason and I both kind of geek out on marketing stuff, and we could probably come up with something creative to help you produce some solutions here, and maybe even tap into Jason and say, hey, Wayne, what do you think of this?
Would love to. Sure yes, would love to help.
He would help us. So again, please utilize us for that. But again, I think if you can be proactive and have an advertising budget in place, actually know how much you're going to spend, then it gets easier to say, our marketing dollars are already committed for this year. Appreciate you asking. And I think, the way you stated it, Jason, was awesome. Thanks for that question, Stephanie. All right, Jason, anything else that we may have missed before we wrap up?
No, I think we're good. Yeah, it's been a pleasure being on, and I was just telling Justin earlier before we hopped on, I need to get back to Oregon. I grew up in Tigard. So yeah, Tiger.
Tigard High.
Yep.
It's funny, Jason and I actually met. We were college roommates at BYU. Prior to that, we were college football teammates. We first met at fall camp. He was an offensive lineman. I was a running back. And so we had a good relationship there, and a friendship that's blossomed over multiple decades now. He's one of my favorite people. I get more excited when Jason Smith comes across my phone than just about anybody else. So we have a good time. There's all kinds of inside jokes that maybe we'll tell you at some future time.
We'll do a whole interview just off of that one day.
Well, that'd be fun. Just like throwback, making fun of ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
So Jason, the final question, the signature question of the show that I ask everybody that comes on, which is, you're a big thinker. I mean, you've done some amazing things. You're entrusted with, I don't know how many millions of dollars of advertising money from your regional credit union to maximize that. A lot. Obviously, you've built an amazing career and brand and reputation for yourself, as well as helped other companies do that. You're a big thinker, is my point. I'd love to have you teach us what you do to continually expand your own possibilities, to continue to be a big thinker and continue to think bigger. I know you also have some other business interests. Anyway, you just got some big things going. Teach us what you do to continue to think bigger.
Well, I think the first thing is you can never be complacent, ever. And there'll never be a time that we ever just arrive, right? You always have to be thinking, with my team here at Mountain America, I'm looking at my 2020 year and going, and we're going to have a team get together, and the whole thing is going to be based around what's next. How do we become a little bit better? Even with the current partnerships that we have, how can we make those even better? Or how can we provide even more value? And I think the more that you have those types of dialogue, and I think the key is we get super busy in our lives, that whether it's in work and in our personal lives, but with work specifically, and we can do the same thing with our families as well, but making time for strategic thinking, making time to really think outside the box, because that is when you get people in a room and you start throwing ideas up on the wall, that creative juice that flows is so important, because it's so easy to be reactionary. Just be like, okay, I have all the tasks that need to be done. I need to get those done, which are important, and we need to get those done, but we need to schedule out time to really think and think bigger. And that's the key, is really just setting aside time to actually do the thinking. And also I was laying in bed last night. I couldn't sleep. And I started having some big ideas come to my head, and I reached for my phone, and I just, my wife's sleep, everyone's sleeping in the house, and I just start typing them down and writing down the ideas and the big ideas that come into your mind. Write them down immediately, because if I wouldn't have written those down and I woke up the next morning, I probably would have forgotten them. So it's taking time when big ideas come, even throughout while you're driving. Obviously, don't write while you're driving, but just make sure that you capture those moments that you have ideas come to your mind. Otherwise, they're really fleeting, and they could just go. And you can.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, one tactic for while you're driving is just grab the voice notes, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Just do a quick recording. So awesome stuff, Jason. No doubt. You can see why having a practice like that has encouraged you to continue to be a big thinker. Just want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to thank you, Jason, for your time. Been super fun. I know it would be, and thrilled to have this information out there, helping agents as they plan their 2020 and decide, where are my marketing dollars going to go? How much am I going to commit to this? Now you have a framework and some really good principles through which you can be able to maximize your dollars. So thank you again, Jason, for the awesome conversation and for all that you have contributed to the Think Bigger Real Estate audience.
Thank you.
And I want to, my pleasure, man. And I want to end with this request of everybody, which are 3 simple words, and they are: go think bigger. Thank you, Jason. Appreciate you being a part of the show, and we'll talk soon, everybody.